Hello, everyone, and welcome to a webinar on the health and climate imperatives to address open burning of waste. I'm Aditi Ramola from ISWA, and I'm very happy to see you all here today. The open burning of waste is an urgent issue that we need to address as it impacts the health of communities living or working near waste combustion sites and also has climate change impacts on a global scale. Through the work of the partners present here with us today, a few things that we know about the issue are the lack of data, evidence and quantification of open burning of waste, and the need for effective communication and education about the risks to people and the planet. We have learned through our research and through interactions with people on the ground that burning of waste is sometimes motivated by a range of factors. For instance, perhaps to reduce volumes of waste in areas where there is an acute lack of collection services, or sometimes it can be driven by the livelihood needs of waste pickers unaware of the health risks of open burning. And these are just a few reasons why open burning of waste might be happening. Whatever the driving factor, open burning of waste can be harmful as it releases a variety of toxic pollutants into the air, and it can also exacerbate soil pollution, water pollution, and food contamination. Open burning of waste releases significant amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and there is an urgent need for us to tackle this issue. So through this webinar, we are hoping to bring to attention this important topic and to shed light on this widely carried out but hardly talked about issue, which is the open burning of waste, at both the household level as well as at open dump sites. And we have a variety of experts with us here today, and they will address the motivation for open burning of waste. They will talk about the risks as well as unintended consequences, and they will also address potential solutions to address the practice. So thank you all for connecting with us from around the world. Our database actually is telling us that we have about participants or over 64 countries. And in a moment, I will actually introduce you to the speakers. And after their presentations, we will have a small panel discussion. And we have also allocated time for a question and answer session for questions from you, the attendees, at the end of the session. All participants are encouraged to type your questions into the question window that you will see on your and we will address them at the end during the Q&A session. So before I begin, and before I hand over to our speakers, I would like to just tell you a few things about ISWA, which is the organization I work at. And I will begin by actually thanking our sponsors and platinum members. So on the screen, you see our sponsors, the logos of our sponsors, Veolia, the City of Rotterdam, Ecomondo, and Messi Munich, the flagship EFAT that they do with us every year. So these are our main sponsors, and we are very grateful for their support. On the other slide, we have our platinum members listed, and so I'd like to thank them as well, because without their generosity and their support, we won't be able to do what we do. So just before I introduce our speakers, I'll take a brief moment to introduce ISWA to you, as several of you might not know us yet. ISWA is a global, independent, and non-profit association that's promoting sustainable, comprehensive, and professional waste management, while also promoting a transition to a circular economy. We are a member-based organization headquartered in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and we are open to individuals as well as organizations from the scientific community, public institutions, as well as public and private companies from all around the globe who are working in the field of waste management or have an interest in the field of waste management. And our mission is to promote and develop sustainable and professional waste management worldwide. We have members currently from over 110 countries. You can see the map on the screen. So all the light blue shaded areas are where we have members. And so thank you for joining us from all around the world today. We count on the support of our members. So if you're not yet a member, because you might have received this invitation through your own networks, please take a moment to visit our membership page. You can visit that www.iswa.org/membership. Or you may alternatively write to our membership manager, Mr. Daniel Purchase, at the email tpurchase@iswa.org. We have several membership options available, as well as discounts for students and members from low and middle income countries. So that's just a bit about ISWA. Just briefly about today's event. Today's webinar is being jointly organized with the CCAC, which is the Climate and Clean Air Coalition of UNEP, with WasteAid, with IGES, and with Engineering X of the Royal Academy of Engineering. I'm really thankful to our partners for coming together to raise awareness on this critical issue and to bring together, members from all around the globe to start a movement, hopefully start a discussion, start a dialogue about this important issue of open burning of waste. So without further ado, I would actually give you a very brief introduction to our speakers today who are joining us from the UK, from the US, from Germany, from Japan. So first we have Hazel Ingham. She's program manager at Engineering X, Safer End of Engineered Life at Engineering X, Royal Academy of Engineering. Then we have Zoe Lenkiewicz. She's a senior technical advisor and head of communications at WasteAid. We have Dr. Johannes Paul. He's the vice chair of the ISWA Working Group on Climate Change, as well as an advisor at GIZ, based in Germany. We have with us Sandra Mazonix. She's the coordinator of the Solid Waste Initiative at the CCAC. She's based in the US. We also have with us Kumara Dikela. He's the director at IGES, a center collaborating with UNEP on environmental technologies based in Japan. And then finally, we have with us remotely and not in person today, Mayor Tali Bensouda of the Kanifing Municipal Council from the Gambia. He wanted to be with us live, but he was unable to do so because there was a clash with his schedule. And so what we've done is we've actually interviewed him and recorded that for you to see later on in the session. So that's just briefly about our speakers. And I'm quickly going to give the floor to Hazel for her presentation. Hazel, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Aditi, and hello, everybody. It's so great to be with you all today. And as Aditi said, we're really excited to be here talking about this issue, which really hasn't generated enough attention as it should. So yeah, delighted to be here. And I'm here to tell you a bit about the program that I manage, Safer End of Engineered Life, and our work over the last year or so looking at open burning, hopefully to kind of set the scene a little bit for the discussion today. So firstly, to give a brief intro into us, we are a global program that works across sectors and disciplines, and we seek to improve safety and reduce harm caused by the decommissioning, dismantling and disposal of engineered products and structures at the end of their useful life. We champion design for demanufacture and circular economy principles, working in partnership with a huge range of experts and partners to address the most urgent challenges, and also importantly, to try and amplify unheard voices as we tackle these issues. So we strive to take an evidence-based approach. So to understand what our program should be doing, we commissioned the Global Review on Safer End of Engineered Life. And this was carried out by a brilliant team at Leeds University with Dr. Costas Velis and Ed Cook, and with partners ISWA, ISSL and D-Waste. So the team, well, they undertook a colossal effort. They sifted through about 8,000 scientific papers and looking at the 5 themes that you can see on the page here, to try and understand what the most urgent safety issues were when it came to end of engineered life. And I'd really encourage you to visit the webpage, which I've put there, to have a look at the research methodology and to read the report in more detail. So what they found is that from this look at these 5 themes, they really converged over 3 overarching, cross-cutting, interconnected themes, which were dump sites, waste pickers, and open burning. And on open burning, the review really highlighted that it mostly takes place in low and middle income countries where there are limited or no waste management systems. And it emphasized that it's obviously extremely harmful, both directly to those exposed to the burning and indirectly to kind of the effects through the atmosphere, as Aditi mentioned. And it also flagged that despite the impact and relevance to important agendas such as plastic pollution, climate and public health, this remains a very poorly researched area and not very often discussed, that's in need of urgent attention. And there's also, as Aditi mentioned, is that the review also pointed out that there are several perceived benefits, such as mass reduction or, controlling pathogens from medical waste, and also for e-waste recycling. So we very kind of early on had a flag that we need to be conscious of these things as we start looking at this area. So to test the review and kind of hear from a broader range of people on this issue, we held 2 workshops earlier this year in January, which were convened by Dr. Mansour Ali and Dr. Terry Tudor and delivered in partnership with ISWA. And these were attended by 115 participants from 23 plus countries. And what we saw is that as we kind of gathered together these diverse groups and also aimed to start building a community around the issue, that there was general consensus with the review. So here on the side, you can see some of the kind of core themes that came out of it, which are, again, no means exhaustive. So again, encourage you to have a look at the workshop reports, but really pointed to things like the lack of awareness, the need for better data in order to inform policies and to improve the effectiveness of our institutions. And again, also this perceived benefit, which we need to look at. So on this slide, I've just tried to give you kind of a summary of the journey that we've been on so far. And we've been very lucky as we progress through this to talk to many different experts and work with different partners, including ISWA, WasteAid, or kind of others on this call as well, to bring together the perspectives and really understand what kind of program is needed in order to tackle this issue. So for us moving forwards, we're really trying to raise awareness. So webinars like this and all of you joining us today are so helpful and important in creating this movement that Aditi talks about, and to build partnerships and communities that can share knowledge and work collectively on tackling an issue that doesn't require an engineering solution or anything in isolation, but really needs that concerted effort in order to tackle it at a global scale. And I've put here again, it's crucial to be conscious of unintended consequences. So we're thinking about how do we stop open burning without affecting livelihoods or leading to more marine litter, etc. So to this end, I'll just give you a brief snapshot into what we're looking at over the next kind of year or so, and then hand over to my colleagues who will kind of dig into the issues much more. So we're very pleased to announce that we're partnering with ISWA on this work, which is brilliant, and it's so useful to be able to connect with all of you in the network as we talk about this issue. We're also talking to the United Nations High-Level Climate Champion team, and we'll be funding a role in Africa ahead of COP27 next year to specifically look at open burning of waste and champion this forward. And then I'd also encourage you to join the Community of Practice, which is a group on LinkedIn that we're trying to develop to get this knowledge sharing going, and also a critical conversation that the Academy will be hosting in September. And then I've maybe saved the best till last. People always like it when you say that there's money available, but we will be launching a grants programme later in this year, which will be building on all of the evidence collected, but also encouraging others to come forward and develop the evidence base as well as funding impact projects on the ground. So I'll leave that with you all. Please get in touch with me if you'd like to join the community or you have anything to contribute. And thank you again to ISWA and Aditi for having this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Hazel, for your excellent intervention. We will now hear from Zoe. Zoe, you may present when you're ready. I'll just go to the next slide. Yeah, that's for you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very, very much to ISWA and the other partners for organising today's event. It is a very important and yet overlooked area. So it's great to be coming together with other partners that recognise the value in working towards ending the open burning of waste. So my presentation is about the human costs, so the health impacts of open burning. I'm Zoe Lenkovic. I'm Senior Technical Advisor and Head of Communications at WasteAid. WasteAid is a UK-based NGO. We work internationally with community-based organisations, policymakers, municipal governments, national government, and so on, in lower and middle income countries. And we work to introduce and implement and develop sustainable waste management and recycling programs that work for the local population. So it's a very kind of bottom-up approach. We work to improve livelihoods for marginalised communities, promoting circular economy innovation that's appropriate for the geography that we're working in, and building a cleaner and healthier future for everyone by providing and developing sustainable alternatives to open dumping and burning. So why do people burn their waste? It's an interesting question. I mean, many of us here today will be aware that obviously it's very bad for your health, and as we're going to hear later on, also very bad for the climate. But if we look at the reasons why people do it, well, if you don't have an alternative, if your waste isn't being collected, what are you realistically going to do? If we look at the percentages of the population here on this graph, of people who don't have a waste collection service, they never have done. What do you do with your waste? So I put together a decision tree, and this is something that people are faced with every day. We're all buying packaged food wherever we are in the world. We're all generating some kind of household waste. So what do? You have your waste. These are your options. You can burn it in your own backyard, in which case it's going to be impacting myself, my family, possibly my children, and my neighbours. If I don't want to burn it in the street, in the yard, then I could just take it out to the street, local area. Where do I dump it? I'm going to either dump it like on the pavement or maybe in a riverbed. Either way, it's not a good outcome. The waste is going to accumulate. It's going to attract vermin, block waterways, increase flash floods, and increase the spread of disease, so waterborne diseases and mosquito-borne diseases, and that's going to impact the entire local population. So in many respects, we can see that actually burning your own waste is quite it's an activity that comes with quite a lot of civic responsibility in a perverse way. So your third option is to take it to the dump site, an informal site where maybe you and your neighbours or people in your local area all take their waste too. Again, the waste is going to accumulate there. It's nigh on impossible to find a new site for a waste, a landfill or something like that. Nobody wants to live near a landfill wherever you are in the world. So what happens? We've got this site, waste accumulates at it, and ultimately it's going to be set on fire to save that void space. So again, it's a communal responsibility activity really to get rid of the waste, because there's nothing else that you can do. And of course, fires on dump sites severely affect the health of waste pickers, anybody working at the dump site, and of course the nearby residents. And some of the footage and photographs, and from my own experience as well, the smoke is absolutely, billowing off of these dump sites. It's settling down into communities, lower in a valley or something like that. Schools get closed. People are told to stay at home and close their windows. So none of these are an ideal situation. When we look more closely at the health impacts of burning waste, so because obviously the nature of waste is it's mixed, you've got plastics, you've got papers, you've got food waste, you've got batteries, it could be sanitary wear, it could be anything from your home, clothing, which is often polyester as well. So because it's not burning at very hot temperatures, like in a controlled incinerator, for example, it generates a lot more pollution. So a lot of black carbon, otherwise known as soot, dioxins and furans, which we know are cancer causing, mercury, PCBs. It's quite an unholy menu there of emissions. And the impacts then on human life, increased incidences of heart disease, cancer, asthma, emphysema, skin and eye diseases, sicknesses, damage to the nervous system, and importantly, damage to the reproductive system as well. And just looking at that a little bit closer, so because around the world, women are often bear the responsibility of domestic waste disposal, and so it's really not uncommon for them to be in the yard with maybe a baby in their belly, another one strapped around their waist, toddlers around your knees, and there you are burning your waste, because that's what else are you going to do? But it's quite devastating, the impact of open burning on young children, because it affects their physical and mental development. There's a few points here. Malabsorption, because of how it affects the developing intestines, therefore affecting how well these children can grow. So by the age of 8, they're already shorter. Increased levels of diarrhea, mental development is also stunted, and huge rates of respiratory illnesses. Now, this is really devastating because, you know, countries where this is happening, and we saw from that graph earlier on, this is not an uncommon practice. You know, these countries, we need young people to grow up and become the doctors, the engineers, the waste managers, whatever, of the future. So they really need to be given the best chance in life. And while we're continuing to practice open burning, they're simply not. This photo I took in Bali a few years ago, and this is hotel waste. You know, we had a look through this burning dump site, and there was Oasis from flower displays. There was Moët bottles, you know, champagne bottles, in amongst the rubbish. So it's not just people in poverty, it's if you are in a country that doesn't have a decent waste collection and disposal system, your waste is going to end up somewhere like this and likely being burned. And the same if you're going on holiday to an all-inclusive, or, you know, always think about what's happening to your waste afterwards. The impacts, WasteAid did a study with Tearfund and a few other partners a couple of years ago. We found that one person is dying every 30 seconds around the world from illnesses caused from just not managing our waste properly. So to get it right will help us achieve many of the Sustainable Development Goals. In fact, it's a very, very cost-effective way to achieve sustainable development, and as well to reduce health impacts and climate impacts of waste. So just to wrap up now, you know, the cost to society in the Global Waste Management Outlook that came out in 2015, and the new one is hotly awaited for this year, but it was found that for every pound or dollar that you invest in waste management somewhere where there is none, you get $5 to $10 back in terms of value to society, through improved health outcomes, you know, reduced pollution, clearer waterways, and so on. So the business case is quite straightforward, although as the speakers have already noted, and I'm sure that the speakers after me will note, we lack data, but I don't think it's something that we should sit on our hands and wait until we've got good enough data, because, you know, I think the case is really quite clear that ending open burning through delivering sustainable waste management is actually a human right. So at WasteAid, we work with, as I said, community groups, local government, national government to implement sustainable waste management systems, getting that waste collected, getting it into value chains where we can, and at least ensuring safe disposal where the waste is not currently recyclable. We're working in about a dozen countries at the moment, and we're a fast-growing organisation, and we remain open to new partnerships. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. Encourage you to get in touch if you'd like to continue the conversation. Thanks again.
Thank you, Zoe, for that excellent presentation and for bringing that health topic so well into the whole discussion. And I then pass over to Dr. Johannes Paul, who's actually going to talk about the climate impacts of open burning. So Johannes, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much, Aditi. Yeah, pleasant good day to all of you also from my side, and thanks for joining our webinar. I would like to proceed with climate aspects of black carbon, same threatening as Zoe explained for the health side. We heard already something about black carbon generation, what black carbon is, but I would like to add relevant things which relate to climate. So first of all, black carbon results as an incomplete combustion. That is very important, because these incomplete components form these black carbon from fossil fuels, biofuels, from biomass burning, also from waste. And these particles, small matter, they are connected to the black carbon, and they are to the atmosphere, not as a gas. So this is a relevant difference to other gases which we consider as greenhouse gases and can be modeled. So what shows on the right side, open dump site in the Philippines, a case. Burning in summer season happens very often on large dump sites. Spontaneous burning by nature forces, methane is burned, and then waste burning just happens on the dump sites. But it also happens purposely, for example, by winning metals back by burning by the informal sector. So in the middle picture, you see a waste bin. Waste is disposed in a bin by residents, but why do they burn it? Very often because they don't receive the service, the waste collection service, or it's infrequent. So they just tend to help themselves and don't see what they are doing. It's just for them cleaning up activity. Black carbon generation is not the same in the various regions and countries. So black carbon itself, coming from biomass, for example, is much more in Africa and Asia from cooking practices, burning firewood, whereas in developed countries, in the EU, European Union or North America, black carbon is much more generated by combustion of diesel, for example. Important for black carbon for the climate aspect is that it is only active in the atmosphere some days to weeks. So it's a so-called short-lived climate pollutant compared to carbon dioxide, which is a very long time in the atmosphere. The aerosol as black carbon will sink back to the Earth's surface, and it will have different effects, which I will explain later. In total, maybe around 7 to 8 million tons black carbon are generated a year from burning, and that will relate to different climate impacts. Let's look at that. How is global warming? Well, it contributes compared to carbon dioxide quite large in the short term. It's a short-term climate pollutant, as I said, and compared to carbon dioxide in 1 or several weeks, it has a big impact, which may reach 70% of the carbon dioxide released. Very similar also to methane. But black carbon itself has a much stronger impact than carbon dioxide in the short term. Here's a factor of 460 to 1,500 as a climate pollutant. What is the mechanism and how does it work? The black carbon going to the atmosphere will absorb the sun radiation. We call it the radiation forcing. It absorbs the heat and directly heats the atmosphere. As a second effect in the atmosphere, it may interact with water vapor and form clouds, and that again also has a climate effect. By falling down to the surface, then we know the so-called albedo effect. If white surface particles and they become dark, then there's a difference in reflecting energy. So ice, glaciers, Arctic, Antarctic, they reflect a lot of energy and cool the Earth. But if you put black carbon on it, then of course the heat, the direct heat on the surface will not reflect and the direct heat increases. So it is estimated that 30% of the Arctic ice melting directly relates to the albedo effect. So in contrast to carbon dioxide, black carbon remains only a short term in the atmosphere. This is very important for the climate side. It gives us also the opportunity to say, if we could cut emissions, we could reach a climate target in a very short term. That is much more difficult with carbon dioxide, for example, or other gases. I would also like to add, there's of course more about, it's not only black carbon by burning, other gases form, other carbon gases, also other gases, carbon monoxide, for example, in the burning process, which will also interact and are difficult to model. And from a climate perspective, the modeling of black carbon, we have led that it is not really seen in so-called national determined contributions in the greenhouse gas inventory as it should be. Maybe that is something to follow up in future in order to move our correction and reaction related to climate. Yeah, just to summarize, I give you the last pictures here. In the pie diagram, you see on a global scale and average what sectors contribute to the black carbon forming, mainly from 60% from domestic or residential burning, use from fuels, household fuels, waste burning, from open biomass burning and agriculture, and around 40% from industrial transport. On the left side, you see all of our sources: transport, construction, industry, energy use, agricultural burning, waste burning. And the black carbon then going to the atmosphere, as I said, goes in two ways. Particles suspended in the atmosphere heat and contribute directly to warming, or they sink back to the atmosphere with the albedo effect and increase the heat coming to the surface. So these are the main effects. And yeah, when you want to model it, it becomes, of course, very complex. We may discuss it later on. Thank you so much. Back to you, Aditi.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Johannes. This has been wonderful. The next speaker is Sandra Mazonix, and she will be introducing the work that CCAC, or the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, is doing. Over to you, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Aditi. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what the Climate and Clean Air Coalition is doing to address black carbon and the open burning of waste. So just to give you a brief introduction on what CCAC is, and then also I'll give you a introduction on what the Waste Initiative is doing. So the Climate and Clean Air Coalition is a global voluntary partnership dedicated to addressing short-lived climate pollutants. We have a network of over 400 members, and these are basically we have over 73 countries that are participating. We have 78 international organizations in more than 100 cities. We also have the private sector is also participating in the Climate and Clean Air Coalition. The coalition is actually hosted by UN Environment in Paris, and we work towards achieving fast action, achieving also quick results and working on the multiple benefits of addressing short-lived climate pollutants. The solutions that we promote are actually science-based, and we work with our partners to provide leadership and awareness to the whole world about all the problems that we have with the short-lived climate pollutants. So what are short-lived climate pollutants? Basically, these are 4 of them, which are black carbon, methane, tropospheric ozone, and HFCs. And they're climate forces that are many times more powerful than carbon dioxide. These pollutants are also harmful to the people, ecosystem, and agricultural productivity. And as Johannes mentioned, like with black carbon, some of them are present in the atmosphere for a few days, and some of them for a few years. This is just a map of the countries that we actually work with. So you can see the orange ones are our country partners, and then the blue ones are some of the countries that are not partners, but we work in there as well. Some of the activities of the coalition include training and capacity building, providing expert assistance, working with countries to support the development of regulations, doing some technology demonstrations, doing a lot of research and science, to just make sure that it is valid, and then also doing political outreach and awareness raising. Regarding the Municipal Solid Waste Initiative of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, we work towards reducing these pollutants across the municipal solid waste sector, and we do this by providing a comprehensive package of resources, doing lots of capacity building, and working with a network of cities to make sure that we help them facilitate the design and implementation of locally appropriate actions. So the 2 pollutants that we work with in the waste sector are basically methane and black carbon, and that's why we're here today. And methane is actually generated by the decomposition of food and garden waste that is kept in anaerobic conditions, and this could be in landfills or very large open dumps. And then we also, address black carbon, which is produced by the burning of waste and also by the use of outdated equipment, either in transport vehicles. So that either for the collection and in the transport of waste. And we focus on methane because it is one of the largest. We work methane is produced by landfills, and it's the largest source of global anthropogenic methane in the world. The coalition NC does work with the waste hierarchy and we promoting circular economy. So we work with all these topics, we work to address and prevent open burning of waste with our partners. Likewise, we work to make sure that the informal sector is incorporated into the whole waste hierarchy, and then working to enable policies that address all these problems, and then working that with to have communications for the public to make sure that anything that is changed, anything that is implemented, anything that is developed, it is communicated with the public so they are aware of everything that's going on, and they can actually support it. Likewise, one thing that is very important for us is to measure and track the emissions. So we have several tools that we have developed in order to be able to do that. Our areas of focus, because of the pollutants that we address, are three. Basically, one of them is diverting organic waste from landfills and open dumps. And then the second one is the collection and capture of landfill gas. And then third is the prevention of open burning. Some of the assistance that the initiative offers is basically direct technical assistance to develop waste management plans, action plans, and assessments. Also, we develop a lot of tools and resources. We work with our partners to have information exchanges and networking opportunity. Like I mentioned, we also do a lot of training and capacity building. And then we also have this, what is called a knowledge platform that basically compiles all the information that we generate, but also some of the information that is shared by some of our partners, including ISWA. This is basically the link of the knowledge platform, but likewise, I wanted to point out this is some of the cities that we work in. And in the topic of open burning of waste and preventing black carbon, we have actually worked with several cities in Southeast Asia and Africa to try to really get them to see better options so that they're disposing their waste instead of burning it. And that information can be found in our knowledge platform. And that is it from me. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them directly via email, but I'm here as well to the end of the program. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra, for this excellent presentation and describing what CCAC is doing globally, addressing this issue as well as, all SLCPs. The next speaker is going to be Kumara, and Kumara will give us examples from cities and municipalities around the world where he's worked, what challenges these municipalities face, and so on. So thank you very much, Kumara. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Aditi. I hope you can hear me. So hi everyone, so I'm Kumara from IJS Center collaborating with UNEP on Environmental Technology, so CCET. It's my great pleasure to join with you today to discuss this very important topic, but not much attention at the moment in the policy discussions, especially in the local governments. So I would like to share a few of our experience working with cities in addressing this issue in more scientific manner. So actually, as many of the speakers already mentioned, so open burning is an issue in the municipal waste management, especially it is in the public health and climate change. So as you can, so let me have to share my slide. Yes, as you can see this slide, so we work with CCAC in doing some study in some of the Southeast Asian cities to understand the waste management and the climate change impact. So what we learned from this work, so our cities in the different stage of waste management. So the cities which are still in the very initial stage of the improvement of waste management. So the cities don't have much waste collection systems. that is the place that mostly open burning is happening. So, and also we found that the open burning is the highest impact for producing black carbon. So in these cities. So and in addition to the greenhouse gas from the open dumping. So that's makes some kind of a sense, the linkages between the waste collection and the open burning. So at the same time, we found that at the same time, we found that the waste burning is happening in the each and every stage of the waste management, starting from the waste generation to the final disposal. So especially at the waste generation, so mostly household and other generators, waste generators are doing open burning, and also we found this burning happening mostly at the treatment and the recycling stage, because most developing cities, the recycling is happening in the informal sector. So what they do is, after they recover the valuable materials, the residual and the non-valuable materials, they burn at the backyard or the neighborhood. And also we found our cities, the mostly waste burning is happening at the final disposal site, especially to reduce the volume of the waste at the landfill. This is different from the landfill fire, the natural system. So they do purposely to reduce the waste at the landfill site. And also because of that, we found that still the cities have facing challenges in understanding how much their waste is burning, the data, and also how take some decisions to improve the waste management to reduce the open burning. So for that, actually, we work in one city as an example, Battambang city in Cambodia, where we worked with the city in developing the action plan for mitigate the open burning in the city. First, what we did is the city started understanding the open burning situation in the city. We did sample survey for the waste generators to identify where the waste burning is happening, what type of waste is burning, and where is the mostly hotspot for the waste burning. So as you can see, there are four results what we learned from this work. The first one is we found like each and every waste generator in the city are doing waste burning at least once in a week. And we found the total volume is nearly 3 to 5% of the total waste generated are burned by the waste generated at the different stage. And also we found mostly the waste hotspot is happening in the areas or the district waste collection is poor or not available for the residents to waste collection services. And what type of waste is mostly burning? We also did survey to understand what type of waste they're burning. Mostly we found plastic and the organic waste, paper, and some non-valuable recyclables are burned by the household. Especially the recyclables have markets, so they are selling to the recycles. So we also have a series of consultations and the interview with the residents to understand any of their suggestions how they can contribute to reduce the open burning. So what we found, like more than 60% answers said improving waste collection is most important. And also the 25% response mentioned that the education and the awareness is very important. So based on that understanding, the city came up with 3 priority actions to mitigate the waste burning. So one is they introduced 2 specific policies and the regulations. One is the banning open burning with some fine system, and the second one is separated waste collection in the city. So these two new policies were introduced to the in the waste management. And the second one is they strengthen their waste management infrastructure and the system to support the waste collection systems at the community level. So introducing community-based waste collection and composting and the recycling. And the third one is introduce a package of awareness and the education, starting from the schools and the community level. So what we learned from this exercise that the open burning cannot be addressed in isolated manner. It should be discussed within the integrated waste management systems, because it is part and parcel of the overall waste management. So that's very important. And the second one is it needs to be understand from the data, but the action is very important to mitigate the open burnings. So in that sense, I will stop my presentation. So if you want to, because all of these case studies are published, so you can go to CCT website and get these reports or send us an email. So I will share this publication with you. So I'm very happy to join today and would like to have discussions. So thanks, Aditi, for you.
Thank you so much, Kumara, for a great presentation and also for throwing light on a very important point, which is that open burning issues have to be dealt within the bigger framework of ISWM, or Integrated Sustainable Waste Management. Thank you very much. And for our final intervention, we have a pre-recorded video of Mayor Talib Bensouda of the Kanifing Municipal Council in the Gambia. And he's being interviewed by Zoe. So thank you so much, Zoe, for putting this together. He will be speaking about open burning at his municipality level, the story, the challenges that they faced, as well as interventions that have led towards less open burning of waste, and how they, what initiatives they took to solve this issue. So I would request for the video to be played now.
I am Senior Technical Advisor at WasteAid, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Mayor Talib Bensouda of Kanifing Municipal Council in the Gambia, West Africa. Since coming into office, Mayor Bensouda has championed better waste management, recognising it as an essential service that benefits the entire population. Mayor Bensouda has worked hard to bring an end to the common practice of open burning of waste, and his story is certainly one that will inspire other mayors and policymakers across the globe. Thank you, Mayor Bensouda, for joining us here today. So I've got a few questions for you. Please, could you tell us about the history of open burning in Kanifing municipal area, the reasons behind it, and the problems that it was causing?
Hello everyone, my name is Talib Bensouda, Mayor of the Kanifing municipality, the largest municipality in the Gambia, with a household number of about 500,000 people. So when we came into office in 2018, we had a huge waste management problem in the municipality, or lack thereof. There was no waste management capacity. We had no collection vehicles. So naturally, people would burn waste as a way to get rid of it. And all over the place was smoke or fires. And of course, the health hazards that come with waste burning are plentiful. There was a lot of people with cancer, a lot of people with a lot of anomalies, and of course, breathing became a problem, and it creates a huge mess within our municipality. So we had the ambitious plan of coming up with a 25-truck collection system or collection network, and we charged a minimal fee as a way to get it sustainable, a fee as small as 20 cents per collection. That's US cents, US dollar cents. So of course, in our country, where people earn less than $2 per month, where people earn less than $2 per day, we had to make it cheap, we had to make it sustainable. And we're glad to say now in our municipality, we're collecting over 500 tons of waste a day. Now we have also seen the effect, and it's very positive. Our waste burning has reduced because there's less waste on the street. And of course, with the collection system, we have also seen impacts in other areas, such as malaria cases have gone down because we have less waste blocking water streams and keeping water stagnant. And also, we have a dump site in the middle of our municipality, which is the largest in the country. It is an 18-hectare dump site. There was a lot of burning in the dump site as a way to get rid of the waste, as a way to limit the smell. And we had to invest significantly in the day-to-day management of the dump site. And these are all ways in which we have limited the impact of waste burning in and around our municipality. We have also focused on enforcement a bit. We have come up with bylaws and increased our police force to ensure that people who do waste burning are charged a minimal fee of about $20, which can be significant if you're caught several times. So these are all things we have been doing within our municipality to limit waste burning.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive account, Mayor Bensouda. It's been really interesting and satisfying actually watching the progress that you've been able to make in Kanifing municipality, the improvements that you've made at Bakote dump site in particular, and also bringing, you know, this the Gambia's very first waste collection service into force, and the associated bylaws to then prevent open dumping and burning, because you're able to provide that alternative for people. So it's you know, your work has been of huge value to the population, and you're setting a great example. So thank you for that. I wanted to ask as well, how do Kanifing Municipal Council's waste management plans contribute towards the Gambia's climate change strategy?
So the Gambia has a Sahelian climate. It's characterized by a long dry season and a short wet season. In the 1960s, the country has experienced increasing erratic rainfall patterns, higher intensity storms, interseasonal drought, and increasing average air temperatures, accompanied by periodic cold spells and heat waves. Of course, KMC has been investing significantly in waste management, as I've said, and that has enabled our urban communities, both rich and poor, to become more climate resilient to natural disasters such as flooding, because we have been investing significantly also in cleaning our drains and ensuring that the water flows. And this is also helping in terms of how we are reacting to climate change. Additionally, our council has enhanced the Bakote dump site because we have increased our management capacity, and this has reduced the amount of methane emissions. And also we have been diverting organic waste for productive uses. And this is also minimizing the scourge of fire outbreaks at the dump site and methane released into the atmosphere. So I think waste management is very key in helping, especially in poorer to developing countries, in helping them limit the amount of impact they have on their own climate.
Brilliant, thank you. And finally then, what advice would you offer to other mayors wanting to stop open burning in their towns and cities?
From my experience, investments in solid waste management pays dividends almost immediately because you enhance sanitation and cleanliness in communities, you improve the health and well-being of young people, and you really do create a stronger social contract between the residents and local government. Also, with our waste management vehicles and our investment in a perimeter fence around the Bakote dump site, this demonstrates to residents that council is working hard to serve them. And we have come up with a mantra called Kanifing for You. So I would strongly advise good investments in waste management that are visible, that have impact, and that include your community in the process. So we've done it through a bottom-up approach where we involve the grassroots, and it's really the people who are running the project, and we are very transparent in how well the project is doing. So it's a KMC for you, it's for the people, by the people. I would also suggest investing in your police, your local policing, and also the introduction of ordinances or bylaws to really ensure that abusers and people who break the law are punished to a certain degree as a deterrent and discouragement for more people to be littering around or burning waste.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and insights with us today, Mayor Bensouda. We appreciate your dedication to waste management and the leadership that you continue to show in this area. And I know I speak on behalf of all of the Waste Aid team when I say how pleased we are to be partnering with yourselves at Canopy Municipal Council on a climate change and climate resilience programme, which I hope to be able to share with listeners when I do my presentation. So that's all from me for now. Thank you once again, and wish you all the best with your future waste management plans.
Thank you, Zoe. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lovely insights from the mayor. Thank you, Zoe, for doing that. Perhaps everyone can turn on their camera, all the speakers. I would like to thank everyone for their presentations and for sharing good practice examples, potential solutions on how to tackle this issue. I have also been contacted by Delhi's or East Delhi Municipal Corporation's chief engineer, who's also joining us today as a participant, and he was telling me all the work that they've been doing in Ghazipur, which you might have heard. It's a very big dump site in East Delhi, almost 60 to 65 meters or even higher, and they have been doing some good work to prevent waste from getting burnt or people setting waste on fire there, as well as they've started some remediation work. So I've just told him that this is just a first in a series of many webinars, or many, actually, all partners will work together on this topic. So next time we'll have Mr. Khandelwal as well. So the floor is open for questions. I've been seeing the chat box. People have been typing up their questions. And when we had done the registration page, we had also asked people to submit questions. So we will go into all of those as well. But let me begin with the few that I've written down as well from the presentations. One of the things that everybody mentioned is that, I mean, there's a lack of data. This issue is widely practiced all across the globe, as you've seen examples from every continent, except that it's not being talked about. So if I may begin with Hazel first, I would like to ask Hazel, because you've done such good work through the Engineering X program, and we had some workshops at the beginning. I see that Mansoor is also here with us in the participant list, and so we'll have him next time talk about these issues as well. So what can we do, Hazel, to raise this issue on a global platform such as yours?
Thank you, Aditi. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we felt from all of the speakers is that despite this being such a prevalent issue, and it's not a secret that this happens all across the world, but it's that no one's working in concert around it in order to kind of push this up the agenda. So I think the points around linking it to climate are really useful and will help us generate more attention. So that's why some of the work we're doing is really trying to kind of make the most of that link, whilst not ignoring that the direct health impacts of open burning are so serious. I've been having a look at the chat as well, and kind of Zoe's comments around not letting the lack of evidence stop us from doing anything. So I think there's definitely a balance to be struck between, starting something and taking some action, whilst also building the evidence, because really many governments won't listen to, the need for waste management infrastructure until there is an argument showing how detrimental it is to the health of their populations. So it's a tricky issue. I think webinars like this and us all coming together and working in partnership is key. And as always, I know collaboration gets bandied about a lot as a word, but I think working in that way is crucial in order to raise this up the agenda. Oh dear, we lost Aditi.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Well, yeah, let's keep it moving forwards then, because I think I had the next question, which was about behaviour change. I can't remember exactly what the question was, but I can sort of extrapolate. So how do we get people to, at a household level, to stop burning their waste? And I've been, giving it some thought. I think, first of all, the most important thing is to provide people with an alternative. Because if your options are only open dumping or open burning, then you've really got little option. So like Mayor Bensouda has in Kanifing in the Gambia, set up a waste collection service. And once you've got that going, and he did it in this very bottom up way, engaging with the community in his municipality, calling it canifing for all. It was very important so that there's what he called this social contract between the council and the residents, so that everybody's in it together to improve the waste management situation and reduce the need for open burning. And another part of that was making sure that the collection service was affordable. And I saw in the questions in the side panel here that somebody has asked about the polluter pays principle. And I think that does apply even on a household level in a very, very poor place. People will pay, even just a small amount, but they will pay for a service when they can see the benefits of it. So in the Gambia, it's $20 for one rice sack of waste. And when the trucks come around, you take your ticket and your rice sack and empty your waste onto the truck, and it's working a dream. And then finally, the other side of that is the bylaws then to fine people if they are caught open burning as that final piece of the behaviour change. So you've got the carrot of providing a good, affordable alternative, and the stick then of punishing people that don't comply. And I think, from his experience at least, it's been very effective. Aditi, glad to see you back.
Thank you, Zoe. Yeah, thank you for. What is a webinar without some technical issues? My computer is just failing me. I'm just going to keep my camera off right now. Thank you, Zoe, for addressing that question, especially on behavior change, which I think is a big piece of the puzzle. My next one is actually for Johannes. And Johannes has put the whole thing. So you brought in the health angle, Zoe, and Johannes brought in the climate angle, where I think a lot of the speakers mentioned that climate is a big issue where we can draw funding into. So did the mayor, actually. He also emphasized that. And so, Johannes, can you give us an estimate of, you gave a bit of that, but the climate impacts of open burning of waste globally, I mean, all data doesn't exist, of course, but even just estimates, can you give us some of that as well?
Yeah, there are already some data. As I said, modeling may be very difficult and giving exact data. But the STOP report, the last as a scientific guidance, mentions that alone from the dump sites, if the waste burning on dump sites would be stopped, that could contribute to reduction in emissions because of what I call as a short-term climate pollutant, and the tremendous short-term effect. Of course, you can question this data now, but this is in relation to what we have as average for the waste sector from the International Panel to 4% from all sectors. The norm, the value of tackling black carbon on dump sites. If you would tackle the black carbon from all sectors, open burning, biomass burning, it would even raise to, up to 5%. And express this in temperature accomplishments for our temperature goal. We could contribute to 0.5 degrees lessening of the warming. That is quite a lot until 2050. That underlines somehow tackling it. It's very relevant. Black carbon as a complex climate to the climate plans of the nations, the national determined contributions, as I said. There's probably some work to be done, but as Dr. Kumara showed us, in waste management and open burning, this is really, residential activities, and it has to be tackled there, and there it becomes very much visible, especially in low and middle income countries. The contribution of black carbon reduction in the cities would even, because there it is in relation to other sectors so much more. So there's a big gain if you would be able to address it. Covering dump sites alone, that would have a great impact if that would become a common practice. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Johannes. That's a good answer. I would move on to Sandra next. I actually want to know, Sandra, from you. You've given us a good glimpse into what CCAC is doing with short-lived climate pollutants, including black carbon. Can you tell us, through the work that you're doing globally, what linkages do you see with other sectors?
Thank you, Aditi. Yeah, definitely. I mean, apart from the linkages, direct linkages to health and climate that Zoe and Johannes talked about, there's other linkages also to the agricultural, to the economy, economic development, and also education. So, for example, for agriculture, we see that the black carbon, the soot, many times gets deposited on the crops, and it harms the crops. Likewise, the health of the animals used for farming are also affected. So that's a big minus that this kind of open burning of waste has on the agriculture. Likewise, in the industry, when you burn the waste, you're not giving it a chance to become part of the circular economy, to really try to see how we can recover some of those valuable materials that sometimes are in our waste. So that's a big sector that it gets affected. Likewise, in the economic development, we have many cities depend on tourism. But when you have a dark cloud of pollutants that is hovering over a city, nobody wants to go there. It affects the health. I have heard of several examples of cities where people, when they go and they cannot go outside, they cannot go to walk, or they're going to run because the air pollution is so bad. In many cases, it's caused by the open burning of waste. Likewise, if people are sick, they cannot work. So if there's again the linkage with the health. You need to make sure that your population is healthy, that they are not succumb to air to diseases due to air pollution, so they can go to work. Likewise with children and education, we have actually seen examples of children in Nairobi that are close, that the ones that live close to the Dandora open dump in Nairobi. They actually are affected by all that open burning of waste, not open burning, but when they burn the waste at the dump site. So all that soot that is in the air actually affects the kids that live close to the open dump. So there are many other linkages to other sectors, and I think that's part of the problem. That's why we need to recognize this such as a big problem, because it does affect many other sectors, not just health and not just climate, but there's other stuff that is going on, and that is important issues to the cities as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for bringing in actually those important points. And in India, we do know a few cities which are, suffering from the bad aspects of open burning of waste. In the winter time, we see really horrible levels of pollution, PM 2.5 pollution. And some of it has been attributed to open burning of waste. Actually, there's a lot of research going on that as well. And you also brought in the link with the economy, and you also talked about the circular economy. So those were very important points that we haven't in this webinar addressed, but we will going forward as well. And that brings me to Kumara, because Kumara, you shared examples from Southeast Asia that you've been, with municipalities that you've been working with. And you also showed the three areas where you think that the most amount of work can be done, education and training, also policy and regulation, but also waste management systems. But through your work over the last many years, can you share what the biggest challenges you saw was for addressing this problem in the municipalities that you worked with? Was it just education? Was it also lack of funding? What did you think, in your opinion, was the biggest challenge, or the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, so you gave me the most difficult question. So I cannot say what is the main challenge, but I feel there were a lot of challenge, of course, but it is easy to overcome this challenge if we have a good political leadership in the cities, with the cities. That's what I was so happy to hear the video message from the mayor. So how he committed, that is the same where we work with the cities. When our cities have a good political leadership who are committed and want to do work, so then it's easy to solve other challenges. So that's what I learned. But at the same time, of course, the cities itself also have a lot of challenge. So the financially, technology, capacity. So all these have some challenges. but what we need, so that's what I mentioned one point. So everything can be do when we take some actions. So that needs some motivations from the city, especially top of the city. The political leaders should be take lead and take actions. So I think that's very important.
Thank you, Kumar. Yeah, political will and political leadership, absolutely important. And Mansoor also mentioned that in the chat box. He said, please, Kumara, say something about political aspects of this challenge. So you answered bang on. So as I had said, we had asked for people's inputs even while the registration form was on. And so we've received questions from participants even before this the webinar began. And so let me just go through a few. So somebody from Uganda asked us, how can we produce regionalized data on emissions from e-waste burning, so open burning of e-waste? I don't know who wants to answer that, but maybe Hazel, this would be a good point in which to briefly mention what we are, through the work that you carried out, the review, if you are working on some very exciting initiatives, or maybe the things that you want to support later on. So yeah, maybe you can have the first pass.
Thank you. Yes. So in terms of e-waste, we've come across some companies that have developed tools to easily open wire so that it's more easy for informal workers to extract the copper. So I think smaller innovations like that can really make a difference in terms of reducing open burning. There's also been a lot in the chat about the effects of agriculture waste and kind of the fumes from that. And I popped a link in there with a company that's looking at how to convert that into fuel, the paddy store into fuel to stop that burning. So I think there's definitely lessons that we can extrapolate from other sectors as well in order to tackle this issue.
Thank you very much, Hazel. Thank you so much. Zoe, I want to come back to you because you shared examples of the work that you've been doing through WasteAid. And can you share some more? I mean, obviously in your presentation, you had only 5-6 minutes. Do you want to share some good examples of preventing open burning and moving towards ISWM or more sustainable waste management?
Thank you. Yeah, sure. So I'll just pick a couple of examples from the Gambia. So in a rural community on the coast, we carried out a 2-year project funded by UK Aid, where we worked with the community to collect plastic waste, so flexible plastics, which usually lack any kind of value chain. So in the Gambia, plastic bottles aren't so much of a problem because there's a strong reuse market for those. But the flexible plastics, particularly LDPE, there's a lot of it. Even though plastic bags were banned, there's still a lot of it. So we were collecting those and turning them into products like paving tiles, just by melting it, not burning it. So it's quite a fine science. Obviously when you're learning, mistakes happen, but once you learn to keep the heat very, very low and you just turn it from a solid to a liquid, and as soon as it's liquid, mixing it in with sand and then getting it straight out and into a tile mold. So that's been quite successful. And then that has led to us to be able to form the relationship with Canifing Municipal Council. And we recently just got EU funding to start a food waste collection service. So we're working with the council, we're going into the markets in the capital city, doing a behaviour change awareness raising programme with the market vendors to get them to separate their food waste, organic waste. That's then going to be collected by the council, by Mayor Bensouda's team, and transported to the women's gardens, which in the Gambia is where most of the crops are grown that are then sold in the market. And then we're working with a community-based organisation called Women's Initiative The Gambia, and they are going to be training the women gardeners to turn the organic waste into compost, which helps with water retention in the soil, so good for climate resilience, as well as making charcoal briquettes, which, from the woody waste, so that then in turn reduces the pressure on the local forests. So it's all very interconnected, you know, sustainable waste management, this kind of permaculture approach of, you know, seeing what you've got and what do you need and how can you marry the two to help create livelihood opportunities whilst reducing the problem of pollution of poorly managed waste. So, I mean, you know, waste management is obviously a very broad church. It's been interesting seeing the questions here about e-waste as well. And that's something that we're going to be looking at later this year. Yeah, I just think, you know, on the whole, there's so many different elements that you need to look at with implementing a waste management system. And I would say, as Kumara pointed out, that, you know, the political will is really, really critical. And, you know, what happened in Canifing is that the city has grown up around this dump site. And so it became an election issue. And Mayor Bensouda, you know, made it an election pledge to resolve the waste management situation because the population was so distressed at the, you know, the health impacts and what have you of having this dump site right in the middle of town. So, I mean, there's still quite a long way to go, but he's certainly showing willing and making really good headway, which I think, you know, is part of that social pact, isn't it? To get everybody recognizing that we all have a role to play.
Perfect. Thank you, Zoe. So this is, since you've been speaking about the Gambia, we did see a question from Jane in the chat box, and she says, improved collection reduces open burning at neighborhood levels. That's correct. But raising funds for managed landfills, O&M, is still often a challenge. And how is the landfill operated in the municipality that we spoke about in the Gambia, so Kanifing?
Yeah, thanks. Good question. So the dump site remains the only disposal site that they have in the city, and it's the most densely populated part of the country. There isn't space. What they have done for now is some dump site improvements. So they've built a wall around it. They've got a gatekeeper. Waste pickers are allowed onto the site, but they're registered, and open burning has been banned. So and they've also got gate fees. So when the trucks come in, we know how much waste is coming in. There's also still donkey carts going around to collect waste, and they have to pay obviously a smaller fee to dump the waste, but that's helpful with getting, because they can access parts of the city that the trucks can't access. Now, in terms of getting a replacement sanitary landfill, that's the ultimate solution that we're working towards. There's no space within Kanifing municipality. It's completely urbanized. So that then means that they have to work with the neighbouring authority to, where there's a lot more space. It's a much larger rural authority area. And so then it comes to this partnership working between local authorities, which takes time to build trust. And there's also, there can be political differences between the two councils, like we have all over the world. So yeah, it's going to be a long road, but I think, they're doing well. Now they've got the waste collection system in place. They are collecting that data. That's the problem, before you're collecting anything, how can you possibly collect data on how much waste people are burning in their backyards? So that's been a really, really important step. And then it's just step by step building the evidence with the ultimate goal, I think, of probably getting, World Bank finance or something like that, to get a sanitary landfill in place that would then be shared by a number of local authorities.
Thank you very much, Zoe. We're coming closer and closer to the end of the webinar, but I do have a few still questions and a lot more in the chat box. Sandra, I want to turn to you because CCAC, is working on this issue, on issues like this on a global scale. And people often ask us and also reach out to you to ask, how to get involved in the programs that you're doing, what is needed from them. And because the more people we involve, the more we can solve the issue, because the problem is not going to solve itself. So just a few words on that as well would be really helpful.
So from our side, like I mentioned, we are partnerships, and depending on the level, so we have several ways of getting engaged. So we have countries can get engaged. There's a way of through the website to become the same thing with NGOs and other big entities. Through the city level, they can actually reach out to me if they're interested in the waste, and then we can actually see how we can get them involved to work more in their cities. And just from at the personal level, then I would suggest just to try to reach out to the cities to let them know about these programs that are going on, and to really lobby or or create we get together with more people in your community to really lobby for these issues. And so because there are a lot of opportunities out there, one CCAC being one of them, and through other partnerships that we can actually tackle this problem. So once we can get communities to get more involved through their cities or through other countries as well, then they can become part of CCAC.
Thank you very much, Sandra. That I hope is helpful for everybody who's wanting to reach out and working to work with us and so on. So we are only 10 minutes away from the end of the webinar. This is an extremely interesting topic, and that's why you can see it's a huge consortium of partners working together on this. And in fact, it's not even all the partners that we would like to work with. Since we can't go into tremendous detail here today, I would actually like each of the speakers to give a brief 1 or 2 minute concluding statement, anything that they'd like to emphasize or send as a key take-home message for all the participants that are with us today. And the participants, I'd like to tell you that we've seen all the questions. I haven't even answered all the ones that came in at the registration process, but we will collect them and we will try to put them together in maybe in sections and answer them later on, or you can get in touch with us individually as well. So let me begin with Hazel. I'd like you, Hazel, to spend a minute and a half just to kind of give your take-home message and concluding statement.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Aditi, and thank you everyone for listening. I think it always strikes me as we're kind of talking about, oh no.
We can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just popped up saying there's a problem with your connection. So yeah, bear with me. It's just kind
of... Oops, that really was a premonition from the... So we're all having some issues. When Hazel gets back, I'll give it back to her. So maybe I will pass on the floor to Zoe.
Sure. So, yeah, I think, to see change happen at the pace that we need it to happen, yes, we do need better data. We need to be able to make our case, and that's why working together across sectors is so valuable. Hazel's back. I'm going to finish what I'm going to say now. I'll keep it very, very brief.
No, go ahead.
Working together across sectors and supporting governments in lower and middle income countries in understanding the costs of inaction compared to the cost of action. And if you take it little by little, like a mouse eating an elephant, implement some pilot schemes, some basic, very affordable systems where you're just getting that waste collected and working with, the community and municipality in that social contract. That's the place to start. And then ultimately leading up to national governments actually including sustainable waste management or emissions from waste in their nationally determined contributions for COP26 and onwards, because that would in turn help attract finance for the larger projects that are needed, I think.
Thank you, Zoe. That's a perfect segue into what Johannes might want to share. So I'll give him the floor to also bring in that climate angle and the COP26 message. Thank you.
Thank you. Direct link. I also see that next COP26 in Glasgow, the climate COP, may tackle a lot and question a lot how we can integrate the implementation level, which are the cities basically on the ground in the city from a climate perspective. That's where greenhouse gas emission impacts, resources, use, activities are most. And in that way, I see that the NDCs, what Zoe mentioned, the national climate plans, we need to work on that they are linked to city climate plans. So the climate contribution of cities, that could be the future if they are linked to the national contributions by countries. Then there would be an opportunity to also give incentives to the cities for doing good from a climate perspective. That would also drive the cities to look for the low-hanging fruits. And the waste sector, especially in low-income countries, from a climate perspective, offers many low-hanging fruits. And as I see, many countries now declare climate neutrality as a target to 2050. So the awareness is raised that this is for all of us somehow the way we go. The NDC mechanism has a duty to update ambitions, to increase ambitions every 5 years. And I think this is really where we, from the sector perspective, have to link. The second opportunity I see beside the short-term lift climate pollutant fact of black carbon is also that we increasingly increase the value of so-called renewable carbon. 1 ton renewable carbon will increase in value. This is organic matter. So fossil organic burning will more and more be on the list to outphase, like we phase out coal burning in Europe now. So you see the 1 ton renewable carbon may increase in its value. This may in the longer run also help us to reduce this added value of renewable carbon. This is the opportunity, so in the longer term that we should work on. It may be difficult in the low-income countries where integrated waste management struggles, but I could see that the support by climate finance, the support by the climate movement on a global scale may also help us to drive us to reduce black carbon burning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johannes, for your comprehensive answer. That's much appreciated. I see Hazel is back. And so I would give the floor back to you, Hazel, and then move on to Sandra and Kumara.
Wonderful. Thank you, Aditi, and apologies. I'll keep it brief as I'm conscious I probably wasted a lot of time with that. But I would just say, I think what always strikes me is when we talk about this issue is that, and I think there's been some comments in the chat about it as well, is that we talk about circular economy and design for demanufacture, which we really champion in our program. But there's still such a kind of a gap between the fact that many people are still living without basic waste management systems. So I think us as a collective talking about this issue and raising it up and really pushing for it to be tackled is crucial. And circular economy may be part of the solution to open burning of waste, but it is really time to galvanize, and as we're all doing here, to act on this issue. So I think, Aditi, you put really nicely at the beginning, join the movement, champion this cause with us, and we look forward to working with you all moving forwards. And please get in touch if you'd like to connect.
Thank you very much, Hazel. Yeah, this issue, as you said, even just basic waste collection, if we can actually do some investment in that. Derek brought it up in the chat. I was quickly reading through the chat box as well. And now I'll pass on the floor to Sandra for your brief message, take-home messages for the participants.
Thank you, Aditi. My message basically has to do with, open burning of waste. It is part of the bigger integrated waste management. So we do definitely the solutions that we propose, not just to prevent open burning of waste, but they also are targeted integrated waste management. And hopefully some of the solutions will include some of the principles of the circular economy. For us at the CCAC, it's very important to basically not just see landfills as the solution, but also see how we can actually valorize all the materials in the waste stream. So we work towards, for on black carbon, it's all materials, but we actually, since we target also methane, we also look towards diverting organic waste management and organic waste. I think it's important to really review all the linkages to the other sector, not just health and climate. There's other sectors that are very important that we need to address. And as we mentioned, there's actually, many of the people that get affected by open burning of waste is actually poor people, people that are in the disadvantage. So there's an environmental justice problem also here that we need to address. Lastly, I think that it's very important to really mention the leadership that is needed to really reduce this problem. So not just from the community, but also from mayors and also from countries. We need more countries to really see this as a problem and not just, kind of like keep doing stuff just because that's how things are done. We really need to make sure that people are aware, and we need to make sure there are more leaders out there that are willing to address this problem. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, for also bringing up the environmental justice issue. Very important, of course, for the next webinar. Kumara, the floor is yours for your last message.
Yes, thanks, Andras. Thanks, Aditi. I think like most of the points have already mentioned by the other speakers, but what I learned that as I mentioned, so we discussed much on the black carbon. What we learned from there is two ways. Is mostly black carbon is generated in our waste management in the cities. One is collection, and another one is burning. So if we stop burning, so we need to increase the collection. So then another way it is still black carbon is increased because we use a lot of old vehicles in the collection and transport them in the very far away of the landfill. So that's what I said like in my presentation. So if we look at it in the more integrated manner, so I feel the either way is the to reduce. So mostly we need to reduce our waste generation. So waste reduction should be the priority by the cities. So that's need not only the local government. So everybody, every stakeholders in the city should be partners and work together and making action plans to based on their local conditions and improve the situation. So for that, actually, my center, CCT, is working with both national and the local government. So we would like to work with the partners and the cities and the countries to achieve these goals. So thanks.
Thank you, Kumara. And also very good points. You also said waste reduction should be on the target and, improve. If you increase collection, you might improve black carbon production because of the fuel and so on. So it's a complicated issue, and that's all we have time for today. I would like speakers show appreciation for all the work we've put together on this on the preparation, as well as for your time today. We have several more webinars coming up over the next months on different topics. So you can go to the ISWA events page and you can see a list of things that you can join us for. The recording of this webinar, along with all other webinars, will be available on ISWA's YouTube channel, so you can access them there. And the presentations, I think, are so that's it. Thank you all for being here with us today, and we hope to see you next time. This is only a start of a bigger discussion. So thank you all, panelists and speakers and participants. Take care, stay safe, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.